Takeout is cool, but delivery gets pricey. So, like a phoenix from the ashes, indoor dining is back at Forged Eatery. I use the analogy because the food is fire. It's a new approach to farm to table. No overalls, just dope food. Try my favorites, like the mushroom stew with pine nuts and ricotta, the cornmeal fried happy oysters, and the seared duck breast. Also, ask about the chocolate chip cookie tins. Mini chocolate chip cookies with a dusting of sea salt. Simply delicious. Head on over to forgedeatery.com to check out the current menu options and make a reservation today. Forged is located at 3520 Chestnut Avenue in Hamden. What's shaking, cats and kittens? This is Rob Lee from Mastermind Team's Robcast. I am the Rob in Robcast, the Silver Linings Playboy, the American Wave, the Midnight Snack Rob Lee. Get it straight. For all of you guys out there listening, we do a podcast, me and my silent partner here.
Yep, Torn, you know. Probably the cool one out of the group, but you know.
I don't know. I don't know if that's accurate.
I have to be.
Say more about this.
I mean...
It's just like, get yourself over as the cool guy.
I'm the cool guy. Listen to my voice. That's it.
You're as cool. You're Kawhi Leonard. You're the Kawhi Leonard of this podcast.
Oh, shit.
I'm a fun guy. I'm a cool guy. So listen to us every week. We cover weird news, pop culture, entertainment. The cool guy, Torn, don't call me Tron, and me, Rob Lee, the King Snake, the Thoughts of Doom, the man with 101 aliases. And we're on every week on MTR Podcasts, and that is mtrthenetwork.com. That is on Apple, Spotify, everywhere podcasts are found. Those are going to be MTR Podcasts. Look for us on YouTube and check us out on the Instagram account and Facebook, both at MTR Podcasts. Check us out every Tuesday. New episodes are dropping. Subscribe today. Welcome to Getting to the Truth in This Art. I am your host, Rob Lee, and today's guest is an artist, owner, and the founder of Dear Globe Coffee. We have LieAnne Navarro. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Rob. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Always good to see smiling faces, people we know. So, again, thanks for coming on. And I want to give that view of what your work is about with Dear Globe, and in the thought or the thinking that went into naming it Dear Globe and the intentionality of that.
Definitely. I have been in the coffee industry since I was a teenager. It was my first job. And I've been very passionate about being in a cafe and being part of the community since then. Dear Globe, I started back in 2017. I did have a cafe back in 2008, but in 2017, I had recently left school. I was studying art, and I couldn't swing it. I had 3 jobs, working in a cafe, house painting, mopping floors in an artist warehouse. I was trying everything to stay, to get my art degree, and I couldn't do it, Yeah. But it took me a little while after that. I was invited by a friend to sort of get back into coffee. And I helped him out with his business and that sort of sparked me getting back into, that passion.
Sure.
And I took some artwork to a cafe I worked at back in 2007 in Highlandtown.
Yeah.
And the roaster owner there said, "Hey, LieAnne, how you doing? Do you want to learn how to roast? I could use your help." So I learned how to roast, and then decided that I would start my own coffee roasting company. And I started Dear Globe. Now, Dear Globe came from, one thing like being a landscape painter and being like a SoCal girl, like learning my appreciation for nature and the ocean. And making, a lot of paintings about nature, that's one way I decided to name the company Dear Globe. And then the other direction was thinking about Baltimore. Back during Freddie Gray protests, I felt, for the first time in my life, this intensity that I wanted to help and like make change. And Dear Globe was my answer. It was kind of like, I love Baltimore and Charm City and all these monikers we have about, Baltimore.
Yeah.
But I wanted to have a name that said, that Baltimore's a global city,
Yeah.
And that's why I picked Dear Globe, because there's this, feminine, the deer, the first part of it. And then I was thinking, what about something that is universal, something that's more kind of like evoking that industrial idea we have of this city. And looking at like, what is the name of all these manufacturing companies you see back then? It's all like Globe Industrial, Globe Components. So this is my version of that. Not to say that I'm a young industrialist, but I find inspiration in that industrial spirit.
I dig it. And I think in it, maybe one of the other collateral, I guess, viewpoints on it would be coffee is not just where you get it, like where you're getting the cup, where you're getting your finished product.
Yeah.
It's not in that one spot. It's like it comes from various places, what have you. And it's like recognize that this cup is in itself a global product.
Definitely. That's so inherent in the business, this want to have exchange with people from all over the world, to be an explorer and to be a traveler where you can meet people and travel to different places and learn about other cultures and feel like you're connected.
Sure.
And that's totally an aspiration, for a young coffee roaster to be able to, travel to different countries and go to coffee farms and meet people. And, part of my hope was like, oh, I can travel because of my coffee business, but then I can also do beautiful landscape paintings of places I've never been before. Yeah.
You can get both of them. You can do both of them. You can do both. Multitasking, get both of them done. Roast by day, paint by night. So in conversations I've had with people, because I drink a lot of coffee, conversations I've had with people, you talk about how coffee feels kind of cliquish or exclusionary in terms of maybe the industry or coffee culture and big coffee culture, big bean culture, if you will. What is your take on that? And if you could, what would be one thing that you would change about coffee culture immediately if you were in that position of you're president of coffee? They want you to decide what we're going to change. What would you do?
I think, that there should be a more humble approach to coffee culture. And I think people assume that coffee is the most humbling kind of job. You're a barista, you're serving people coffee. It's a day-to-day thing. But there's been this trend in the industry, especially in the specialty coffee industry, that on one hand I appreciate. It's the technology trend, these really cool machines with, all this digital gear and we've got refractometers and we've got PIDs that control the temperature and the pressure profiling in these machines. But at the same time, that stuff is very, very expensive.
Yeah.
And if you're looking at this from the angle of a young barista, like how do you expand and grow in this direction? On you're working for tips and hourly, like how do you grow in that industry? And that's what I would want to change, is like helping create more paths to the professionalism and to ownership in the industry. And that's definitely difficult also for minorities in the industry. This is a product that is from different countries and from tropical countries. People of color are farming this coffee, and the ownership, the whole, the supply chain, the ownership of the supply chain is not predominantly people of color. And that's something that the industry is facing now and trying to figure out.
Yeah, I remember not too long ago. It was a big thing in like I think it was Ethiopia, what have you, and I remember some of the like black coffee, like Onyx, for instance, one of the black coffee owners that I actually have had from and I've bought beans from and all of that stuff. They were like, "Yeah, we're not selling any." Yeah, it's like we're not selling any coffee that comes from there because they have, bigger issues there than trying to sell coffee. They have like a war or what have you. They had some unrest going on there, and the fact that we're not going to have that should bring attention to that. And that kind of like, it's not going to be normal. This is going to be cut off. Like this is a real thing, and I would imagine. That may have caught some people by surprise. Like, oh, why don't I have this blueberry flavored coffee? Because I hear that's the flavor that's associated with that region, really.
Ethiopia, yes.
Yeah. So let's talk about art a little bit. You mentioned landscape and so on. Describe your artistic style. Give us that because this is more than just coffee. We're about coffee. We're about art. So hit us with that.
Sure. Well, I mean, lately, to be honest, I've become more of an artist organizer than a practicing artist, and I'm trying to swing it. I'm trying to make art, organize art, and sell coffee, make coffee. What I've done in the past has been a lot of representational work. I learned how to paint in using oil paints and as well as acrylic. And a lot of it was painting on plein air, like going to parks and painting cityscapes. And more recently, it's turned into abstraction. Okay. And that's because, with the cafe I had working behind the counter, 6-7 days a week, I didn't have the time to paint outside, but I would be able to get to my studio and sort of work from imagination or from, just the surface of the paint and working with the colors. And that has been interesting. And more recently, I signed on as the community art organizer for 410 Lofts. That's where Deer Globe Coffee will be opening up a new brick and mortar location. I'm very excited, as well as an art gallery called Catalina Arts. And that art gallery is my vision of creating a space that is approachable for emerging artists, that is welcoming, and will represent a diverse group of artists in the Baltimore community.
I think that's important to have that, and it's great because it's coming back like a phoenix from the ashes, coming back, and that's good, and coming back in a way that is inclusive of that community because of the artistic community, of the coffee drinkers community, and it's an opportunity for artists to get their work seen by people who are going to be there. It's just like, oh, well, get some coffee. Oh, what's this? That's great. How can I figure that out or what have you? So being in that space, I think those things, like, for whatever reason, I feel like coffee and art go together like wine and art go together.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Painting, okay? No sipping and painting. That's not allowed.
No, we don't do any of that. It's like you watch and have a nice sniff. It's like, sniffing and painting, not sipping and painting. That's what we're doing. So let's see. These are going to be out of order now. So let's see. Share some of your creative influences as a painter, and it may not even be other painters. It may not be other like artists, but some of those influence. It could be other people. It could be like, oh, I really like this musician or what have you. But what are some of your influences creatively?
Sure. Visual artists. I really follow Vasily Kandinsky. Really early on, the idea of the spirituality in art and the spirituality, the connection between music and color and composition has always, connected with me. And also minimalist art. Morandi, who's like the precursor of minimalism. I look at Morandi and think, look, these are just bottles, these are just very boring painted bottles, but there's this, the going to the canvas and looking at that same figure over and over again, and developing, that interaction, and responding to it with a different piece of artwork every single time. That's a beautiful thing in art, to take something average or ordinary and to, manifest something that's sublime and departs from our normal everyday. And then that's how I feel about coffee. And definitely musically, I'm kind of out there,
Say more.
Like I like Georgi Ligeti,
Okay.
But then I love Mingus, and so it's like, what's the connection there? I don't.
Hold on. What'd you just say?
Yeah. I mean, very, very expressive. Well, actually, you wouldn't call them expressive, but kind of a tonal, expressive, modern composition, and then actually bring back something more rhythmic with jazz, but then also still experimental and just all the multiple layers of harmony and melody that Mingus come up with. I love that, and they connect.
That's my guy right there. It's as if you already knew, because and definitely the improvisational piece. I think with just when you're creating and you feel like you're in that groove, and it's like, look, this is where we're going with this. Follow my lead or get left, and I admire that.
And Rob, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's improvised. Improvisation that is what is interesting. And then also finding patterns in improvisation,
mm-hmm.
And that with art, and that with daily life.
Because you're always pivoting in daily life too. You always like, oh, this didn't go the way that I wanted it to. It's like you have to pivot, or even in the last year or what have you, for a lot of for people, not even a lot, just for people, period, hard stop. That if you're stuck in a specific thing, you're unable to pivot, to improvise, you get eaten. You get eaten by just the way that these things are. And if you're able to improvise, you're admired. You'll see different businesses here, for instance, that it's like, how did you do that? I'll be damned. I see what you're doing there. You kind of look at it and you admire, and you want to maybe learn something from it. I think it's something to be shared. And that approach is something that I think is big, especially improvisational, especially when you're creating. I think that is big, because things don't always go ideal. And we know that. And
right, when you're hitting the friction with the paint, and it's fighting you, it's drying too fast, or, it's getting muddy. Yeah. You got step away for a second and sip some coffee, and then try to find that fluidity and center yourself again and come back to it, and hopefully finding the motions that you're used to making will push you through. Yeah.
So this is not. I'm not a cat burglar, so I'm going to ask you this question. I'm not a cat burglar. I'm not going to What is your most prized possession, and why?
Are we talking about material possession?
However you would want to answer that. Yes, I'll leave that to you.
Well, okay, I'll make it easy, because I think I got to say my cello is one of my most prized possessions. And
how much your cello is going for these days? No, kidding.
And it's not because I'm not really a musician. But it is, something I go to meditate, even before I'm going to try and make a painting, mm-hmm. Something that I can access my creativity in a completely different way.
It's interesting. It's interesting. I before this interview, and I'm talking. I mean, coming from the future, I had an interview with Max Weiss, literally right before this interview, and she's a cellist as well. And she's like, "Yeah, sometimes to meditate, I play the cello." I was like, "Do I need to get a damn cello? Do I just need to get it sorted in that way?" All this cello meditation. Okay, let's see. Now this is Baltimore. This is regional, and this might be a softball for you from the area that we've been talking about a little bit before this podcast. But finish this sentence. It's filling in this blank. Blank is an area that is on the come up. What would that area be that's on the come up?
Lexington Market Center neighborhood, Bromo Tower Arts District, all the way.
Okay. And tell us why. Tell us why what we have going on there. If you want to delve into that a bit more.
Well, very clearly, Dear Globe is opening up there. but no, there has been such, a DIY art energy there for a long time. Mm-hmm. And there's, I feel like there's a collaborative community effort that's finally happening. And, it's like one of my favorite parts of this city. It's beautiful. I love the architecture there. I love that Lexington Market's there. It's actually the first place I lived in when I moved to Baltimore. I didn't really know anything. I hadn't, been to the East Coast ever, and landed in Baltimore, and I lived by the Hippodrome. Yeah. And at that time, I was like, wow, this is it. This is an East Coast city. And, it took a while to realize that there wasn't enough of a neighborhood vibe, not enough locally owned businesses, not a lot of places to walk to. Sure. But I think that it's shifting. And that's what I'm really excited for is, that beautiful part of the city and more vibrancy being put there by people in the city and by these new businesses opening up and just, the artists that have always, been present there.
Yeah, that's a great area, actually. And not even in a pluggy sort of way, but I worked down there. And it's odd. Like I worked down there at Catholic Relief Services for like a year. And I just remember sometimes just to the nature of the job I had, I would be there late. I'd come in there super late and it'd be dark. And it's like I almost feel like I'm in a detective noir novel, when I'm walking through. And maybe that's a whole different vibe, but that's the vibe I would get being down there. And it's just different things that are on that kind of strip. And I just want nothing but good things for that area because it's an area that's accessible from that downtown, and you can hit the tourists that are there, and maybe they'll venture even further up and get into that Midtown area, get into that Station North area. I think that Bromo, that area is kind of the entry point to actually going into the city, not just being down there, between the stadiums or the inner harbor. I think that's the entry point to really get into the city and see all the art that's there, see all the culture that's there, not this, not the stuff that you're supposed to see.
Right. And it's great. It's got the great, transit connections going on, Absolutely. I just love the light rail. That's the coffee bar in Howard was like, right on the light rail. We even had a little vinyl decal of a light rail train on our window.
Yeah, I remember that.
I just think that, that why aren't people riding that thing all the time and using that as like the main transportation to get around the city? It's a great train system.
Yeah, it's there. It reminds. Actually, it's funny. Like I had a podcast with some dudes from like Cali, I think they were from Los Angeles, and we were just trading notes on the different transit system. And I was like, "You guys' transit system is great." It's like, well, we pay for it, we invested it, but no one really uses it. And I was like, "Sons of bitches!" Like you're able to do all of this, and I got the light rail here, and I really didn't appreciate it. But now, as you mention it, I worked for the Orioles for a point for like 3 years while I was in college. And literally that light rail came in handy a few times and I was running late. I was like, I'm about to get on this light rail. It hits everything and boom, right there at the stadium. I am good to go. So yeah, the light rail, it gets you from the airport to deep into almost at Pennsylvania. It's great. Yeah. Put some respect on the light rail's name, damn it.
Definitely.
So you're a transplant. You moved here from the West Coast, from San Diego, right?
Yes.
So from your time here, you've been here long enough that you're a true Baltimorean. You still have that Cali cool vibe, but you're Baltimorean. What is from your vantage point, what's the biggest misconception about Baltimore that people like coming here, they just don't get it? Like, what do you think people always kind of screw up when it comes to Baltimore?
Oh, I don't know. Honestly, when I moved to Baltimore, I thought it was the greatest city, you know? I mean, I definitely still believe it. And, you know, whatever pre-notions that people have with this city, maybe it's the crime or whatever, but maybe it's just people in Baltimore hoping that it doesn't get popular.
That's true.
It's so special, really. I just, you know, I just wish that what we do here, our creativity, our festivals, you know, our entrepreneurial spirit, people are friendly here. Let's just keep doing more of that.
Yeah. Keep doing the good stuff here.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing. We don't hear people are friendly here. It's just like a town. It's just a bunch of neighborhoods. It's like, yeah, I know you. What's up, man? How it is. So in the last question I have, and we still have the opportunity to shamelessly plug, and I mean, you should plug all of the stuff you have coming up, reopenings and all of that good stuff. So we touched on music earlier. What's the last song you listened to?
Well, I can't tell you what last piece I listened to because I didn't know what the name of it was.
Okay.
Because
I was going to say
it was actually yesterday, and Dear Globe hosted pop-up jazz jam by the Eddie Hrybick group. I don't know if it's a trio, but it was a group of musicians from, you know, the city, from Towson, from Peabody, and it was just a jazz jam. So I actually can't tell you the name of the last piece. Only that it was spectacular.
That's all that really matters. Like, was it good? Because that's the thing. Like, I mean, you can't Shazam like live music sometimes. You're like,
it's so fresh. It's not on Shazam. Okay, it's so fresh. It's original music.
Yeah. It's fresh like the coffee one would get from Dear Globe. Shameless plug time. What do you got?
Okay, shameless plug. Dear Globe is opening up in 410 Lofts. It's an affordable artist housing development in the Bromo Arts Tower District. I'm super excited about it because not only can I serve our delicious fresh roasted coffee roasted here in Mount Vernon, Baltimore, but we can showcase the artwork of Baltimore artists, and we're creating and growing a bigger art community in the neighborhood. And I'm telling you, I am meeting all of these amazing people that are moving to Market Center, and I'm super excited of all the collaborations and projects that's coming our way.
That's fantastic. So yeah, thank you. Where can they find you? Where can they stay up to date with everything Dear Globe?
You can check out our website, www.dearglobecoffee.com. Our IG is at Dear Globe Coffee. Also on Facebook at Dear Globe Coffee. You can order our coffee online. And we're actually doing a crowdfunding for the next place because I need some help with this, everybody. It's a big project. And I'm hoping that the community can be involved, and, you know, eventually this will be like a really great art gallery and cafe. Our coffee is also found at Eddie's grocery stores and local businesses like Bottoms Up Bagels, Knit Soy Metal, Tablefield Catering, and so many more.
So there you have it. Thank you, LieAnne, for coming on to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Rob.
This has been fantastic. So for LieAnne Navarro of Dear Globe Coffee, I am Rob Lee, saying that there's art in and around Baltimore. You just got to look for it.